Another tool that we're going to use in 3D modeling quite a lot is going to be the Bevel tool. So to explain what Bevel does, maybe again it's the best way to explain it with a cube. For example, you notice here how the corners are very, very sharp and that the highlights are basically not existing, and that you can see that one surface, so basically the top one, has no transition and let's say highlight to this surface. So basically it's very, very sharp and it appears also as a flat line. Now, if you would render this and if you had a lot of lights in the scene, basically this corner would appear super sharp and it would not have enough geometry to hold or cast any highlights. So basically this is why we're going to use beveling. So to explain it even more, so let's just hit C to access our edge mode, and I'm going to use rectangle selection to select all of the edges here, and then simply right click to access our bevel tool. So again, here we can see the hotkey if you wish, you can remember that. And I'm just going to click on it, and by default it will not do anything. So I'm going to reset the values again. And for the bevel tool to actually do something, you need to hold left click and drag. And once you do that, you will see that now the original faces that we have, they're just slightly offsetted by the offset value there on the right, that you can see it's right now changing the value. And basically this new face is created, that is actually the bevel faces. The thing is, this also doesn't help us much because the corners are still very sharp. So what we need to do in this case, we need to add some subdivisions to actually see what bevel did. So if I just now go to model mode and just click away, you can now see that we have much more highlight here. And if you would render this, now this would appear much more realistic. And especially you can see that highlight right here, this white dot. So basically by default, this is what Bevel does. Now we added a lot of subdivisions here to this area. And basically let me just show you, if we go to this plate, Gore shading with lines, we can see here that we have a lot of edges. So when it comes to subdivision modeling, we are not going to do that. We are going to use some other option. So let me just undo this and let's go again to our edge mode, select bevel again. And this time I'm going to reset values, and instead of chamfer, let's go to solid. So basically this is the same thing that we had before. We now have extra edges, but to actually see what is happening, we need to work with subdivision surface. So we need to add subdivision surface. So you can just click on this icon, and then you need to drag the cube underneath the subdivision surface to actually see the effect. So right now we can see here a lot of edges, and that simply means that subdivision is actually calculating the cube in this, you can see also subdivision editor that we have 2 extra subdivisions. It means that we have much more polygons to work with. But if we now go to display, Gore shading, now we can see that we have still the same highlight. So basically, when it comes to subdivision surface, we're going to use the beveling in this stage. So this just covers the beveling of the edges. Now the thing is, let me just go again a couple of steps back. Now the beveling doesn't just work with the edges, it also works with the faces. So if you would, let's actually now choose bevel again. I'm just gonna reset the values, and let's just bevel this and offset on the inside a bit, add more subdivision, and now you can see what is happening here. Now you have this sort of a curve on our bevel or extrusion. So basically it's now a combination between extrusion and beveling. And now you can play here with the depth and decide, for example, which kind of bevel you want. If you set this to 0, then it's going to be basically the same thing. So for example, let me just explain. Let's go to the move tool, select this face, hold Control to extrude. Let's select scale and scale it down. So basically the bevel did this operation for us. So this is how the beveling would work when we talk about faces. But this is something that we're going to use really quite a lot. So we're going to see a lot of other examples that are really more practical than just a cube. But this is more of just introduction into the tool. Here we can see another example where the bevel tool is going to be used. So now we have a simple object that it was a cube, and I just applied subdivision surface on top. And let's say that we would like these edges right here, so this transition, to be more sharper, because right now this area right here is really smooth, but what if we want to have a more sharper angle there? So let me just disable this. Let's go to cube. I'm going to select the edge, and let's now go and select every edge right here, and I'm going to select every edge right here. And because these are the edges that we actually want to make sharper, so I'm going to right click and go to Bevel. And now here, instead of chamfer mode, I'm going to select our solid mode. And then I'm going to use offset, something like this, very small offset. And now if you turn subdivision back on, and let's go to model mode, we can also click away. Now we can see that we have a very sharp corner there. So this is also going to be another use and in terms how we actually use the bevel tool and how we manipulate the edges itself. So yeah, more or less this is just again a small introduction into the bevel tool, but later once we do on a more and more project, we can also see how it actually works into in more practical examples. So thank you very much for watching, and let's continue to the next video.